Imagine your father has traded all your body parts with demons, and now you must hunt these demons down to reclaim each part of your body one by one. This is the story of Hyakkimaru. Rain poured relentlessly over the bleak lands of Ishikawa as Lord Kagemitsu Daigo stood in the oppressive shadows of the Hall of Hell. The flickering light of countless candles barely illuminated the grotesque forms of 12 demon statues that towered over him, their malevolent grins etched in stone. The air was thick with an unholy presence as an old priest confronted him, warning that the path he sought would strip him of his humanity and lead only to damnation. Daigo's ambition consumed him. Ignoring the priest's pleas, he unsheathed his katana and struck him down, his blade gleaming with cold resolve. Kneeling before the demons, Daigo made his offer. "Anything," he declared, his voice trembling with equal parts desperation and conviction. The demons accepted, power was promised, and the price would be extracted. Lightning crackled through the heavens as Daigo strode from the hall, a faint smirk on his lips. Months later, the day of reckoning arrived. In the dim glow of their home, Nui no Kata, Daigo's wife, labored to bring their firstborn into the world. Her cries of pain mixed with the rumble of thunder outside. But when the infant emerged, horror struck the room. The child bore no limbs, no eyes, no skin, an abomination of flesh. Nui no Kata's maternal instincts flared despite the sight, but Daigo's reaction was one of cruel acceptance. The demons had kept their end of the bargain, and the land would now flourish under his rule. Dismissing his wife's protests, Daigo coldly ordered the midwife to dispose of the baby and demanded that Nui no Kata bear him another child. The midwife, pitying the deformed infant, placed the child in a small boat and sent it drifting down the river. Her attempt to save him ended tragically as a ghoul emerged from the shadows and devoured her. The ghoul's feast was short-lived, however, as a blind old man cut it down with practiced precision. The child's fate seemed sealed by darkness, yet the gods had other plans. 16 years later, the boy, now called Hyakkimaru, wandered the desolate lands. Fitted with deadly prosthetics by the skilled Dr. Jukai, he moved with a quiet determination, hunting the very demons that had stolen his body. On one such hunt, he encountered a boy named Dororo, a cunning thief embroiled in trouble. Beaten and cornered by merchants he had deceived, Dororo's life seemed on the brink of ruin when a monstrous demon, Deki, emerged from the filth and devoured the men. Unperturbed, Hyakkimaru faced the creature. Casting aside his prosthetic arms, he revealed gleaming blades hidden beneath. His movements were precise and merciless as he cut down the demon, his blades slicing through its grotesque form with inhuman speed. As the demon fell, Hyakkimaru's body began to change. His missing skin regenerated, soft and pale beneath the rain. Dororo, trembling in awe, stared at him and whispered, "Are you human?" Far away, Daigo felt a tremor of unease. A bolt of lightning struck the Hall of Hell, shattering one of the demon statues. His pact was no longer secure. Meanwhile, his second son, Tahomaru, returned from a carefree hunt, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within his family. Nui no Kata, still haunted by memories of her firstborn, gazed out into the storm. Clutching a broken statue of a god, the winds carried whispers of change, heralding the return of the child she had lost to the river long ago. Dororo traveled alongside the mysterious young man who, despite his inability to see, hear, or speak, possessed extraordinary abilities. He wielded swords with unmatched skill, had superhuman strength, and could sense the intentions of others through the colors of their souls. As they wandered, the duo arrived at a small village, overseen by a beautiful and seemingly kind woman named Bandai. Dororo, always looking for opportunities, offered the young man's skills to the villagers for a fee, proposing that he slay a monster haunting the area. The creature, known for ringing a haunting pilgrim's bell, had plagued the village for some time. While in the village, they encountered a blind monk named Biwahoshi, who carried a lute and possessed the rare ability to see people's souls. Like the young man, Biwahoshi could discern the true nature of those around him. It wasn't long before Dororo and the monk uncovered a horrifying truth. Bandai, the village's beloved leader, was not human. She was a demon who had been devouring unsuspecting travelers. The young man confronted Bandai, and a fierce battle ensued. With precision and ferocity, he struck Bandai down, exposing her true monstrous form. As the villagers grappled with the revelation of Bandai's true nature, another eerie event unfolded. The monster that rang the pilgrim bell appeared once again. A villager revealed the truth. They always knew about Bandai being a monster, and the pilgrim bell was the vengeful spirit of the first creature the villagers had killed. Later on, the young man wrote a word on the ground, revealing his name, Hyakkimaru. Suddenly, a strange phenomenon occurred. Lightning struck Bandai's statue in the Hall of Hell, symbolizing the demon's defeat. At that moment, Hyakkimaru regained his central nervous system, allowing him to feel pain for the first time. The sensation, though agonizing, was also proof that he was slowly reclaiming his humanity. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Kagemitsu Daigo received troubling news. The Sakai clan seemed to be preparing for war. Jukai-sensei was a renowned doctor, known not only for his ability to heal the sick, but also for crafting prosthetic limbs for those who had lost them in accidents or during the horrors of war. However, Jukai's past was marred by darkness. Once, he had worked for Lord Shiba, carrying out cruel orders by crucifying wounded enemies on the battlefield. His life took a tragic turn when Shiba's soldiers killed someone dear to him, pushing Jukai to the brink of despair. Overwhelmed by guilt and grief, he threw himself into the sea. Fate, however, had other plans. Jukai was saved by foreigners who took him in and taught him the art of making prosthetic limbs, granting him a new purpose. He dedicated himself to helping those in need, striving to atone for the sins of his past. One fateful day, Jukai discovered an abandoned infant on the riverbank. The child was grotesquely deformed, seemingly cursed, with no eyes, ears, nose, or limbs. This was the firstborn son of Lord Kagemitsu Daigo, cast away because of his monstrous appearance, a result of Daigo's pact with demons. Despite the child's condition, Jukai's heart was moved. He took the baby home and resolved to care for him. Using his expertise, Jukai crafted special prosthetic limbs for the boy, enabling him to move and appear like any other child. Over the years, he raised the child with care and kindness. When the boy reached 6 years of age, Jukai gave him a name, Hyakkimaru. Hyakkimaru's life changed forever when he encountered and killed a lizard demon. To Jukai's astonishment, Hyakkimaru's right leg, which had been missing since birth, magically regenerated after the demon's defeat. Jukai realized the horrifying truth. Hyakkimaru's body parts had been stolen by demons at birth as part of his father's pact. Killing demons would allow him to reclaim what was rightfully his. Determined to help the boy survive the dangers ahead, Jukai inserted swords into Hyakkimaru's prosthetic arms, turning them into deadly weapons. With a heavy heart, he bid farewell to his adopted son, allowing him to travel the land alone to recover his body and face his fate. In the present, Hyakkimaru awakens from a deep sleep, still grappling with his newly acquired ability to feel pain, an ability he regained after killing the demon Bandai. The sensation of pain was both a curse and a sign of his humanity returning, a stark reminder of the cost of his journey to reclaim his stolen body. As rain falls softly on the earth, Dororo chats with a girl named Osushi, who shares stories of her life while Hyakkimaru stands outside. For the first time, he feels the rain on his skin, a sensation both strange and profound. Suddenly, his heightened senses detect something sinister, a demon's presence. Without a word, Hyakkimaru sprints off, his instincts guiding him toward the danger. He soon encounters a man wielding a demonic sword that emanates an aura of malevolence. The sword's movements are swift and precise, guided not by the man's will, but by its own thirst for blood. A fierce battle ensues, but Hyakkimaru struggles against the sword's supernatural power. In a desperate maneuver, he traps the blade using his prosthetic leg, immobilizing the attacker long enough to survive. As the battle ends, Dororo approaches to retrieve Hyakkimaru's leg, only to be drawn toward the sword's dark influence. The weapon pulls Dororo toward its rightful owner, Osushi's brother, Tanosuke. Recognizing her brother, Osushi intervenes and takes him home, hoping to help him recover from the sword's grip. At home, Tanosuke reminisces about the day he first encountered the demon sword Neil. Given to him during a time of despair, the blade promised strength and power, but its curse was insidious, an insatiable thirst for blood that consumed not only Tanosuke's enemies, but also his soul. The sword turned him into a man he no longer recognized, its malevolence twisting his actions and desires. Meanwhile, the cursed sword is drawn to its owner in Dororo's hand. Hyakkimaru follows the sword and finds Tanosuke once again, clutching Neil, its dark influence fully possessing him. Despite Dororo's pleas, Tanosuke succumbs to the sword's power and attacks Hyakkimaru, Hyakkimaru. The two warriors clash, but this time Hyakkimaru is determined to end the curse. After a brutal battle, Hyakkimaru delivers the fatal blow, killing Tanosuke and shattering Neil into pieces. As the cursed blade breaks, a strange yet familiar sensation washes over Hyakkimaru. His ears, stolen by demons at birth, are returned to him. For the first time, Hyakkimaru hears the world in all its chaotic beauty. The sound of rain, the rustling of leaves, and even Dororo's voice become part of his reality. Yet, the moment is bittersweet, as Tanosuke's death weighs heavily on everyone. Hyakkimaru, still adjusting to his newly restored hearing, finds the overwhelming cacophony of sounds almost unbearable. The rustling of leaves, the chirping of insects, and distant animal calls, all things Dororo barely notices, echo painfully in his mind. As he struggles to adapt, a giant bird-like monster suddenly attacks, its shrill cries piercing the air. Though Hyakkimaru fights valiantly, his wounds slow him down, and he is nearly defeated. Just in time, the Biwa Hoshi, a traveling priest, appears and slays the beast. The Biwa Hoshi warn them that they are in Sakai territory, where an army is preparing to march against the Daigo forces. Tensions are high, and the land is dangerous for travelers. Hyakkimaru and Dororo take shelter nearby, hoping to avoid the brewing conflict. The next morning, Hyakkimaru wanders to a nearby river where he hears a young woman singing a gentle, haunting melody. Her voice momentarily soothes his senses, and he watches her intently. The woman, Mio, notices him and approaches, but Hyakkimaru collapses from his injuries before he can speak. Mio takes him and Dororo to an abandoned temple, where she cares for a group of orphaned children. Many of the children have lost limbs or family to the ongoing wars. Despite their hardships, Mio provides a sense of stability and warmth, feeding them with what little she earns. However, unknown to the children, her work at night involves serving Sakai troops as a prostitute, a dangerous and degrading job she hides behind her kind smile. The Biwa Hoshi eventually finds a safer place for the group, a secluded area far from the fighting. However, there is a catch. The land is occupied by a demon. Despite his wounds still healing, Hyakkimaru decides to confront the monster to secure a better future for Mio and the children. The Biwa Hoshi, watching Hyakkimaru closely, grows concerned. While Hyakkimaru's aura is mostly pure white, symbolizing his humanity, hints of demonic red begin to seep into it. The priest fears that Hyakkimaru's intense battles with demons and his growing rage may be corrupting him. When Hyakkimaru and the Biwa Hoshi find the demon, a monstrous antlion larva, they engage in a brutal fight. The demon is ferocious, and in the heat of the battle, it bites off the lower half of Hyakkimaru's real leg, the one he had only recently regained. For the first time, Hyakkimaru screams in agony, his voice raw and filled with pain. That night, Mio makes a heart-wrenching decision. In desperation to provide for the children, she leaves the temple to serve the Daigo troops, hoping to earn more money. Dororo, worried about Mio, follows her and discovers the truth about the nature of her work. The revelation leaves Dororo conflicted. Mio's sacrifices are for the children, but at a great cost to her own dignity. The Biwa Hoshi returns to the abandoned temple with Hyakkimaru, who is severely injured after his battle with the demon. His lower leg is gone, but for the first time, he can speak, though his voice is hoarse and unfamiliar. Meanwhile, Dororo, suspicious of Mio's nightly absences, questions the other children about her work. None of them know the truth, only that Mio leaves to earn money for food and supplies. As Hyakkimaru slowly recovers, Mio helps him adjust to his newfound hearing and voice. Her calming presence and gentle songs soothe him, and they begin to grow closer. The red tint in Hyakkimaru's soul, an ominous sign of his potential descent into darkness, begins to fade. Despite his injuries, Hyakkimaru is determined to kill the demon and secure the safer land the Biwa Hoshi found for Mio and the children. Using swords, the children scavenged from a nearby battlefield, Hyakkimaru returns to the demon's lair. This time, he overcomes the monster in a fierce battle, killing it and regaining his lost leg. Though still battered, Hyakkimaru feels a sense of triumph and hopes the victory will bring peace to Mio and the children. However, upon returning to the temple with Dororo, they find a horrific scene. The Daigo troops, suspecting Mio of being a spy for the Sakai army, have attacked the temple. Mio lies mortally wounded, and the children are mercilessly slaughtered. The The temple, once filled with laughter and warmth, is now drenched in blood. Hyakkimaru, overwhelmed by rage and grief, descends into a berserk fury. His soul turns a deep, violent red as he slaughters every Daigo soldier in sight with unrelenting ferocity. Dororo, horrified, tries to stop him, fearing that his unbridled anger might transform him into a demon. After much pleading, Dororo finally manages to calm Hyakkimaru, who collapses, trembling with emotion. Later, as they bury Mio and the children, Dororo discovers a small handful of seed rice clutched in Mio's hand. Despite her suffering, she had taken the seeds from the soldiers she despised, intending to start a farm and provide a future for the children. Her dream of a better life now rests with Dororo and Hyakkimaru. With heavy hearts, Hyakkimaru and Dororo leave the ruined temple behind. Though Mio's sacrifice weighs heavily on them, her song and her unwavering hope become a source of strength as they continue their journey through a world torn apart by war and demons. Later, Hyakkimaru and Dororo encounter the spider-like demon Joragumo in the forest, where she has ensnared a man in her web. Hyakkimaru swiftly engages the demon, wounding her. However, she manages to escape into the darkness. The pair soon arrive at a nearby village plagued by the mysterious disappearance of men at night. The following day, a kind-hearted young man named Yajiro finds the injured demon, now disguised as a beautiful woman, collapsed on a trail. Feeling pity for her, he takes her to his modest home, offers her food, and affectionately names her Ohagi, after the rice cakes he shares with her. Yajiro works tirelessly at the Lord's quarry under harsh conditions, but he remains compassionate, even catching and releasing a cockroach instead of killing it. His actions and kind words, life is life, whether it's a human's or a bug's, leave an impression on Ohagi. Though Ohagi's hunger for human flesh grows stronger, she resists eating Yajiro, moved by his selflessness. Meanwhile, Yajiro reveals a secret. The men disappearing from the village have not been captured or killed, but have been secretly escaping the oppressive rule of the local lord with Yajiro's help. He offers to guide Ohagi out of the village to safety. Their journey is interrupted when they cross paths with Hyakkimaru and Dororo. Recognizing Ohagi as the demon, Hyakkimaru attacks her. Ohagi defends Yajiro and flees with him into the mountains. Yajiro leads her to a hidden passage, but they are ambushed by the Lord's soldiers. In the ensuing chaos, Yajiro is struck by several arrows while protecting Ohagi. Enraged and unable to contain her true nature, Ohagi transforms back into her spider demon form and annihilates the soldiers. Her actions draw Hyakkimaru to their location, ready to slay the demon. However, as Hyakkimaru and Ohagi prepare for their final battle, something unexpected happens. Ohagi's concern for Yajiro causes the red hue of her demonic soul to fade. Recognizing this shift, Hyakkimaru hesitates, lowering his sword. Choosing compassion over vengeance, Hyakkimaru allows Ohagi and Yajiro to leave together. Though burdened by their injuries and the challenges ahead, the pair escapes to an uncertain future, bound by a shared kindness that transcends their differences. Hyakkimaru and Dororo, watching them disappear into the horizon, continue their journey, reflecting on the complex nature of humanity, demons, and the bonds that define them. Somewhere else, a dark, ominous cloud shrouds a small mountain village, heralding the arrival of Nokosaregumo, a demon that has long terrorized the villagers. In desperation, they prepare a young woman as a sacrificial bride, hoping to appease the creature. Hyakkimaru and Dororo happen upon the somber bridal procession as it ascends the mountain trail. Suddenly, a wild boy named Saru disrupts the ceremony, attempting to save the woman, whom he calls his sister. Saru explains that Nokosaragumo has plagued the village for years, demanding sacrifices to keep its wrath at bay. Moved by his determination and the woman's plight, Dororo and Hyakkimaru decide to face the demon and rid the village of its curse. As they venture up the mountain, the dark cloud thickens, and Nokosaragumo emerges, a massive, centipede-like demon. However, Hyakkimaru struggles to pinpoint its form, as the demon and the cloud both emit the same red aura in his vision. Before he can strike, the demon swallows the sacrificial bride whole, disappearing into the sulfur-laden mist of the mountain. Dororo and Saru hatch a daring plan to use the mountain's sulfurous gases against Nokosaragumo. They ignite the gases, creating a fiery explosion that engulfs the demon. Though the blast startles it, the creature remains largely unharmed. Undeterred, Dororo leaps onto Nokosaragumo's head, shouting to Hyakkimaru and helping him locate the demon by sound. Guided by Dororo's voice, Hyakkimaru delivers a devastating blow, slicing through the centipede and destroying it. As Noko Saragumo's body collapses, the dark cloud dissipates and the mountain is bathed in sunlight. Hyakkimaru, Dororo, and the woman, miraculously alive after being swallowed whole, tumble into a spring below. Saru, overjoyed to see his sister safe, agrees to return to the village with her, leaving his wild life behind. In the aftermath of the battle, Hyakkimaru regains his sense of smell, an ability stolen from him long ago. For the first time, he speaks Dororo's name aloud, marking a subtle but meaningful moment in their journey together. The pair depart the village, ready to face the next challenge on their path. But later, Dororo succumbs to a high fever, and Hyakkimaru takes him to a nearby temple in search of aid. As Dororo drifts in and out of consciousness, the sight of blood-red spider lilies near the temple stirs painful memories of his past. In his feverish dreams, Dororo recalls life with his parents, his mother Ojiya and his father Hibukuro. Hibukuro was the charismatic and principled leader of a band of outlaws, composed of former farmers who had lost everything to oppressive samurai lords. Together, they raided samurai caravans in a form of resistance and retribution. One fateful day, Itachi, Hibukuro's trusted second-in-command, betrayed him. Itachi proposed raiding a weakened Yanagimoto unit, but it was a trap. Aligning himself with a samurai lord, Itachi ambushed Hibukuro and his men, crippling Hibukuro's legs and taking the remaining bandits under his command. With no allies left, Hibukuro, Ojiya, and Dororo were forced to scavenge the battlefields for food and supplies. Hibukuro once told Dororo that the vivid red color of spider lilies resembled the blood of those who had died in battle. One day, their family stumbled upon a village under attack by samurai. Recognized by the attackers, Hibukuro fought valiantly to protect his family but was ultimately killed. Dororo and Ojiya escaped, but their struggle to survive only grew harsher. Starving and desperate, Ojiya eventually succumbed to hunger in a field of red spider lilies, leaving Dororo to fend for himself. Back in the present, Dororo awakens from his fever and begins to recover under Hyakkimaru's care. However, the priestess tending to him reveals a startling truth to Hyakkimaru. While washing Dororo's clothes, she discovers that Dororo is in fact female, referring to him as a young girl. This revelation leaves Hyakkimaru surprised but reflective. Meanwhile, Kagamitsu Daigo receives troubling news from a survivor of the attack on Mio's camp. The survivor claims that Hyakkimaru may still be alive, setting in motion a new wave of tension and potential confrontation. A monstrous crab-like demon terrorizes a lake, destroying a boat and devouring its helpless occupant. Meanwhile, the Daigo lands suffer under an unrelenting drought, and tensions rise as the Asakura clan gathers at the border. Lord Kagamitsu Daigo, grappling with these challenges, visits the Hall of Hell. There, he finds more demon statues shattered, and the remaining demons inform him that Hyakkimaru is alive, steadily reclaiming the body parts they stole from him. This revelation intensifies Kagamitsu's concerns as his carefully constructed deal with the demons begins to unravel. Elsewhere, Kagamitsu's son, Tahomaru, overhears discussions about his father searching for a mysterious baby. Intrigued and suspicious, Tahomaru sets off with his loyal bodyguards Mutsu and Hyogo. Their journey takes them to a village by a lake where rumors swirl about a monstrous creature that preys on fishermen. Determined to protect the villagers and prove his worth, Tahomaru devises a plan to confront the demon. Leading a group of villagers in their boats, Tahomaru and his bodyguards attack the demon. Despite landing some blows, the monster's overwhelming strength forces them to retreat. Realizing brute force alone won't work, Tahomaru strategizes a trap. Under his guidance, the villagers construct a shallow channel to lure the monster, planning to drain the water and immobilize it. The trap succeeds, and the demon is forced into the channel. Tahomaru, Mutsu, and Hyogo launch a coordinated assault on the demon. Despite their efforts, the monster proves resilient, even managing to capture Hyogo in its massive claws. Just as it seems Hyogo will be devoured, Hyakkimaru arrives in the nick of time. Wielding his deadly prosthetic blades, Hyakkimaru slays the demon with precision and ferocity. As the villagers celebrate their liberation from the monster, Tahomaru watches the mysterious stranger who saved them. He is left deeply curious about Hyakkimaru, unaware of their shared bloodline and the fateful connection that ties them together. Hyakkimaru, ever silent, leaves without revealing his identity, continuing his journey to reclaim what was taken from him. Tahomaru learns the name Hyakkimaru after reports of the demon slayer reach him. Meanwhile, Hyakkimaru and Dororo arrive in the Daigo capital, where they witness a theatrical play glorifying Kagemitsu Daigo as a noble hero who protects the land from demons, aided by the goddess of mercy. The display leaves Dororo scornful of the blatant propaganda, but Hyakkimaru remains stoic, his thoughts focused on the growing sense of conflict surrounding them. The Biwa Hoshi venture to the Hall of Hell to uncover the truth behind Daigo's connection to the demons, while Hyakkimaru and Dororo continue their journey to Fort Banmon. The fort, a grim reminder of Daigo's ruthlessness, was built over a destroyed village, its walls now cursed and haunted. There, they discover a timber wall used by the Asakura to pin the bodies of their enemies with arrows, a silent monument to countless atrocities. While exploring, they meet Sukuroku, a determined young boy seeking to cross into Asakura territory to reunite with his family. His desperation moves Dororo, but Hyakkimaru remains cautious, sensing danger. Elsewhere, Tahomaru overhears a troubling conversation between his father, Kagemitsu Daigo, and his mother, Lady Nui. Kagemitsu confirms Hyakkimaru's survival but declares his intent to kill him to preserve the prosperity of their land, regardless of the price already paid. Nui pleads for her son's life, but Kagemitsu's resolve is unyielding. Tahomaru, deeply shaken, later encounters a deranged woman near Banmon. The woman, a witness to Hyakkimaru's cursed birth, reveals the chilling truth. The demons devoured everything except the infant, leaving him alive yet grotesquely incomplete. As night falls over Banmon, chaos erupts when a nine-tailed fox demon emerges, its glowing red eyes filled with malice. The demon attacks Hyakkimaru, its powerful tails creating whirlwinds and striking with deadly force. In the chaos, Sukuroku seizes the chance to cross the cursed wall, with Dororo chasing after him. However, both are quickly captured by Asakura sentries. Hyakkimaru fights fiercely against the demon, his prosthetic blades flashing in the moonlight. Despite his strength, the fox proves a formidable foe. Just as it seems the demon may overwhelm him, arrows pierce the sky, forcing the creature to retreat. The arrows come from a squadron led by Kagemitsu Daigo himself. As the dust settles, Kagemitsu approaches Hyakkimaru, his expression a mix of recognition and cold determination. For the first time, father and son stand face to face, the tension between them thick with the weight of betrayal, destiny, and unresolved conflict. Hyakkimaru stands face to face with Kagemitsu Daigo, the father he does not recognize. Confusion clouds Hyakkimaru's mind as he sees the unmistakable red of a demonic aura within Kagemitsu's soul. But before he can process this revelation, Kagemitsu coldly orders his archers to fire. Hyakkimaru narrowly escapes, his instincts guiding him away from the deadly hail of arrows. Meanwhile, Dororo and Sukuroku are held captive in an Asakura prison alongside other Daigo prisoners. Ever resourceful, Dororo slips out of their cell under the cover of darkness, determined to find Hyakkimaru and save Sukuroku. In the Daigo stronghold, Tahomaru confronts his mother, Nui no Kata, demanding the truth about his brother. His fury grows as Kagemitsu explains the grim bargain he made with the demons to save the Daigo lands, offering up Hyakkimaru's body as a sacrifice. Before Tahomaru can fully grasp the weight of this revelation, Hyakkimaru appears, his presence throwing the household into disarray. Nui no Kata and Tahomaru are stunned by the sight of him, but Kagemitsu shows no hesitation. He commands his soldiers to kill Hyakkimaru, once again prioritizing his land over his own blood. Tahomaru is torn. When his father demands to know if he would sacrifice the prosperity of their domain to save his brother, Tahomaru hesitates. With reluctance, he steels himself to fight for the land that has defined his identity. At Banmon, tensions escalate as the Asakura begin executing Daigo prisoners to provoke open war. Sukuroku's cries for his family echo across the battlefield. The Daigo army charges, and the chaos draws the nine-tailed fox demon back to the scene. Its sinister presence envelops the cursed ground, adding to the carnage. Lord Kagemitsu arrives with Tahomaru and his army, ready to crush the Asakura forces. Tahomaru, now fully committed to his father's cause, engages Hyakkimaru in combat. combat. The brothers clash with fierce intensity, their blades ringing out over the battlefield. Tahomaru fights with desperation and resolve, but Hyakkimaru's skills and experience prove superior. Hyakkimaru breaks Tahomaru's sword and strikes a blow that damages his right eye, leaving his younger brother bloodied and defeated. Hyakkimaru then turns his attention to the fox demon. With his heightened senses and unmatched determination, he overpowers the demon and delivers a killing blow. The creature's massive form disintegrates, its essence sucked into the cursed Banmon, which begins to tremble ominously. As the battlefield quiets, Nui no Kata arrives, her face pale and filled with sorrow. She falls to her knees before Hyakkimaru, begging for his forgiveness. Tears stream down her face as she confesses her complicity in Kagemitsu's bargain with the demons. To atone for her sins, she takes a dagger and stabs herself, her sacrifice fueled by the love she could never express for her son. Her death triggers a miraculous event. The Banmon collapses as the goddess of mercy statue, long tied to Hyakkimaru's fate, crumbles alongside it. Survivors of Sukeroku's village emerge from hiding, their chains of fear finally broken. Sukeroku is reunited with his mother, their tearful embrace a glimmer of hope amidst the destruction. The Biwahoshi retrieves Nui no Kata's small headless wooden statue of the goddess of mercy, which he discovers had sacrificed its own head at Hyakkimaru's birth so that the child would not lose his head in his father's bargain. As the gentle green aura of the statue fades, Hyakkimaru feels a sense of bittersweet resolution. With the battlefield silent and the Banmon's curse lifted, Hyakkimaru and Dororo prepare to leave. Though Hyakkimaru has won back parts of his humanity, the path ahead remains uncertain. Together, they continue their journey, carrying the weight of their shared past and the hope for a brighter future. Hyakkimaru and Dororo travel through dense forests and rugged mountains, continuing their search for demons. Along the way, Dororo suggests taking a break at an onsen, hoping to lighten Hyakkimaru's somber mood. Hyakkimaru, focused on his quest, remains indifferent, but Dororo's persistence keeps the idea alive. Later, as Dororo and Hyakkimaru wanders ahead, they encounter a woman named Okaka near a waterfall. Okaka bears an uncanny resemblance to Dororo's late mother, Ojiya, leaving the child momentarily speechless. Okaka warmly invites them to rest and introduces her to the nearby statue of Hakumen Fudo, a faceless Buddha carved into the cliffside by a sculptor who, she explains, died before completing its face. As night falls, Dororo listens intently to more of Okaka's tale, but soon falls into a deep, drugged sleep. As she is fainting, Okaka reveals the darker truth of her story. The faceless Buddha is inhabited by a demon that craves a human face to complete itself. It revived the sculptor as Okaka, giving her the power to change her appearance and voice, so she could lure humans to the waterfall as offerings. Okaka drags Hyakkimaru to the waterfall, where the towering demon statue of Hakumen Fudo looms ominously. Hyakkimaru awakens and immediately attacks, but the demon proves formidable. Using its dark powers, Hakumen Fudo immobilizes Hyakkimaru, binding him in place as Okaka hesitates, torn between her role as the demon's servant and the emotions stirred by Dororo's kindness. Dororo awakens and rushes to the scene, pleading with Okaka to stop. Her heartfelt words touch something deep within Okaka, who begins to question her loyalty to the demon. In a moment of defiance, she turns against Hakumen Fudo, allowing herself to be wounded by its sword. Her sacrifice weakens the demon's hold, giving Hyakkimaru the chance to destroy the statue in a final, decisive strike. As the statue crumbles, Okaka begins to disintegrate. With her last breath, she thanks Dororo for reminding her of her humanity. The faceless Buddha's remains tumble into the roaring waters below, leaving the forest eerily silent. Later, Hyakkimaru and Dororo finally visit an onsen, where they unexpectedly encounter the Biwahoshi and a group of cheerful children. As Dororo bathes, a mysterious map appears faintly on her back, catching the attention of the Biwahoshi. He hints that it may hold the key to her past, leaving Dororo intrigued and Hyakkimaru quietly reflective. Meanwhile, in the Daigo stronghold, Nui no Kata is revealed to have survived her suicide attempt, though her health remains frail. Tahomaru, however, bears bears the scars of his battle with Hyakkimaru, his right eye blinded and his pride wounded. Despite this, his resolve to confront his brother and defend his family's land only grows stronger. Dororo sits by the fire at the onsen, her back warmed by the heat. The faint lines of a map reappear, etched like a secret waiting to be uncovered. Hyakkimaru looks at it briefly but remains silent, his focus ever fixed on his hunt for demons. The Biwahoshi, however, studies it with intrigue. He explains that the map offers Dororo a choice, a chance to uncover her past and perhaps a fortune, or to leave it behind and chart her own path forward. Dororo listens but says little, her thoughts lingering on memories of her mother and father. Their journey resumes the next day, and Dororo's musings are interrupted when a massive, grotesque, baby-like creature suddenly emerges from the forest. The creature grabs her in its huge hands, but Hyakkimaru, unmoved by the spectacle, resumes his path and states that it is not a demon. The creature follows him and they arrive at a burned-out temple. At the temple ruins, they encounter Lord Sabame, a solemn figure carrying a bouquet of flowers. He places the offering on a charred stone altar and explains that the temple was once a nunnery. According to Sabame, it was destroyed by lightning after the nuns exploited and abused children under their care, with no survivors left to tell the tale. Sabame offers the travelers shelter at his estate, and they accept. Sabame's mansion is grand but unsettling, with an air of decay hidden beneath its polished surface. At dinner, he speaks kindly to Dororo and Hyakkimaru, but avoids direct questions about the land's history. That night, as the travelers sleep, they are attacked by a writhing, caterpillar-like monster. Hyakkimaru quickly wounds the creature, but before he can deliver the final blow, a gigantic moth-like demon swoops down and carries the wounded monster away. They follow the moth to a secluded clearing, where it lands and transforms into a pale, white-haired woman. She scolds the injured caterpillar-like creature, calling it one of her children, and chastises Sabame for providing food that was too strong for them. Sabame appears, gently consoling the demon woman and promising to protect her and her offspring. Dororo ventures into Sabame's seemingly idyllic village, where the people appear content and prosperous. Yet, something feels off to her, and she decides to explore deeper into the forest, where Sabame's rice storehouse is hidden. As she sneaks inside, the scent of decay hits her. Before she can investigate further, the villagers discover her and without hesitation push her into the storehouse basement. In the dim light, Dororo is horrified to find herself surrounded by the grotesque caterpillar-like monsters, writhing and hungry. As they inch toward her, a familiar shape looms, the massive baby-like monster. To her surprise, it protects her, smashing through the caterpillars with its colossal strength. However, as the battle unfolds, the baby monster begins to tear apart, releasing a flood of glowing spirits. These are the souls of the children sacrificed to the Maimayanba demon, finally free from their torment. Dororo realizes the extent of the villagers' complicity. They had fed the children to Maimayanba after burning down the temple to cover up their crimes. Meanwhile, outside the village, Sabame speaks candidly with Hyakkimaru. He recounts how Maimayanba appeared as a savior when his village was beset by samurai and wild beasts. In exchange for her protection, he allowed her to feed on the village's enemies, and eventually on the temple children. He admits that he took her as his wife, believing her monstrous hunger was a necessary evil for the survival of his people. Their conversation is interrupted as swarms of moths, newly emerged from their chrysalides, rise into the air and attack Hyakkimaru. He fights them fiercely, slashing through the swarms, but one manages to destroy his prosthetic leg before flying back to the village. The moth sacrifices itself, setting the storehouse and much of the village ablaze. Inside the burning storehouse, Dororo, determined to end the horrors, sets the remaining rice supplies alight. The flames consume the caterpillars and the stored grain, spreading chaos through the village. As the fire rages, the villagers begin to fight each other over what little food remains. Their once united community, now a scene of desperation and violence. Hyakkimaru tracks down the original Maimayanba in the heart of the inferno. She fights with ferocity, but Hyakkimaru's resolve is unshakable. With a final strike, he kills the demon, and as her body disintegrates, his stolen spinal column is restored to him. When he and Dororo reunite, they walk silently through the charred remains of Sabame's village. The air is heavy with the scent of smoke and death. Many villagers lie lifeless, including Sabame, who fell victim to the chaos he had helped create. Dororo expresses doubt about their actions, questioning whether they had the right to destroy the village. Hyakkimaru, however, remains cold and detached. "I only care about killing battling demons, he says, his single-mindedness driving a wedge between them. Their journey resumes, but there is a growing distance between them. Eventually, they part ways briefly, with Dororo heading off on her own. It is then that she is captured by Itachi and his men. They ask about the map, but Dororo's defiance frustrates Itachi and his men. Bound and wary of the bandits' rough treatment, Dororo uses the journey to observe them closely, searching for an opportunity to escape. After days of traveling, the group finally arrives at Cape Akotsu, a desolate and windswept place. However, their hopes of reaching the treasure are dashed when they find no boats available in the nearby village, which lies in ruins, the signs of destruction suggesting an attack by bandits, or something far worse. Their fortunes shift when they encounter Shiranui, a strange one-armed youth with an unsettling air about him. Offering to ferry them across the treacherous waters, Shiranui introduces his boat-pulling sharks, creatures of unnatural size and ferocity. Reluctantly, the bandits agree, dividing themselves between two makeshift boats pulled by the sharks. Dororo, though skeptical, keeps her thoughts to herself, sensing that Shiranui's intentions are far from noble. Midway across the water, Shiranui reveals his horrifying secret. The sharks developed a taste for human flesh after he fed them his own arm to save himself from starvation. To keep them satiated, he slaughtered the villagers, ensuring a constant food supply. At his signal, one of the sharks capsizes one of the boats, dragging the men aboard into the water, where they are torn apart. The survivors' cries echo across the waves as the other shark circles the second boat, leaving the bandits frozen with fear. Shiranui smirks and assures them that the shark will wait to eat, as he prefers his prey terrified and exhausted. As the situation grows dire, Itachi unexpectedly shows a vulnerable side, recounting how he and his men were discarded pawns in their lord's machinations, leaving them disillusioned and desperate. Dororo listens intently, but cannot help berating them for their cowardice. "You gave up fighting the moment you let someone else decide your fate," she shouts, before impulsively diving into the water to act as bait. Her bold move shocks the bandits, but it gives them the chance they need. At her signal, they pull her from the water just as the shark surfaces, and with combined effort, they spear and kill the massive shark. Exhausted but emboldened, the group paddles ashore at Cape Hakatsu. Their relief is short-lived, however, as Shiranui soon follows. Intent on avenging his shark, he confronts the group, but the bandits savagely overpower him. Beaten and bloodied, Shiranui vows revenge before retreating into the shadows, his piercing glare promising they haven't seen the last of him. By the firelight, Itachi notices something unusual about Dororo's back. Stripping her of her clothes to examine it further, the heat of the flames reveals the hidden map Hibukuro had inscribed years before. Itachi's eyes widen with realization, but before he can savor the discovery, another shock comes to light. Dororo is a girl. His surprise quickly turns to indifference, and with the completed map in hand, he and his men tie Dororo up and leave her behind, believing she is no longer useful. Jukai, weathered by years of hardship and regret, toils on the battlefield, attaching limbs to the deceased in a desperate attempt to offer dignity to the fallen. When a ghoul appears amidst the carnage, its grotesque form threatening to disturb the dead, Hyakkimaru emerges like a shadow. With swift precision, he dispatches the ghoul, his movements a blend of practiced efficiency and raw power. Jukai watches in stunned silence as the young man he once helped now exudes an aura of both humanity and something far darker. Back in Jukai's cave, the weight of Hyakkimaru's story falls heavily on the old man. The revelation of Kagemitsu Daigo's monstrous bargain leaves him horrified, and he gazes at Hyakkimaru with a mix of pity and fear. Though Hyakkimaru's physical form is becoming more complete, his eyes burn with a cold intensity, a reflection of the demons he has fought and the humanity he has lost in the process. Jukai hesitates to repair Hyakkimaru's leg, sensing the cycle of violence it will perpetuate. Yet, Hyakkimaru's determination remains unshaken. "If I am to regain myself," he says, "I must face my demons and my family." His words are resolute, but Jukai sees the shadow of despair behind them. Their conversation is interrupted when a sudden landslide traps them inside the cave. As Hyakkimaru begins to dig their way out with relentless determination, he pauses and speaks of Dororo. "I am not alone," he says quietly, almost as if convincing himself. The mention of Dororo stirs something in Jukai, a faint hope that Hyakkimaru's humanity identity may not be entirely lost. When they finally emerge into the sunlight, they are met with a grim sight. A cursed Ayakashigi demon tree stands nearby, its twisted branches bearing ghastly fruit that give rise to ghouls. The air reeks of decay as the creatures swarm toward them. Without hesitation, Hyakkimaru launches into battle, cutting down the ghouls with ruthless efficiency. Jukai watches from a distance, both awed and unsettled by the ferocity of Hyakkimaru's attacks. The young warrior does not stop until he plunges his blade into the tree's heart, ending its cursed existence. As the tree crumbles to ash, Jukai wonders if Hyakkimaru can ever truly escape the curse that binds him to violence. Meanwhile, at the Daigo compound, Nui no Kata recovers slowly from her suicide attempt, her body weak but her spirit weighed down by guilt and sorrow. She longs to see Tahomaru, but her son, consumed by his own turmoil, chooses duty over family. When reports of a rat-like ghoul terrorizing the land reach him, Tahomaru sets out with his loyal aides to confront the threat. They find and wound the ghoul, its grotesque form squealing in pain, but the true horror lies in its progeny, still squirming within the building. Tahomaru, his resolve hardened by his father's expectations, orders the structure burned to the ground, condemning the creatures inside to a fiery death. Watching the flames consume the ghoul, he tightens his grip on his sword and vows to protect Daigo land at all costs, even as the cost to his soul grows. Upon his return, Kagemitsu Daigo tasks Tahomaru with his most challenging mission yet, to kill Hyakkimaru. The weight of his father's command is heavy, but Tahomaru accepts, assembling a small army to confront his estranged brother. The echoes of their father's ambitions drive him forward, even as a part of him questions the morality of their actions. Meanwhile, Hyakkimaru rows a small, weathered boat toward Cape Hakatsu, the wind carrying him closer to his destiny. The waves crash against the vessel, but his focus remains unyielding. Dororo's fate and the treasure of Cape Hakatsu linger in his mind, but the looming confrontation with his family grows nearer with every stroke of the oar. His journey, fraught with peril and sacrifice, is far from over. Shiranui, consumed by vengeance and desperation, summons his monstrous shark companion and feeds it the remains of the dead shark. The grotesque transformation that follows turns it into a land-walking demon, its scales glistening with dark energy. The newly evolved demon wreaks havoc, lunging at Dororo with its massive jaws. Just as it seems all hope is lost, Hyakkimaru arrives, his blade flashing in the chaos. The battle is fierce, but Hyakkimaru's relentless determination wins out as he delivers a fatal blow to the demon. As the shark collapses, its demonic essence dissolves and Hyakkimaru's left leg is restored. Though victorious, Hyakkimaru's expression remains unreadable, his humanity slipping further away with each fight. Meanwhile, Itachi and his dwindling band of men stumble upon a hidden cave, lured by the promise of treasure. In their haste, two of his men rush inside, only to trigger deadly booby-trapped explosives. The echoes of the blast ripple through the forest, a grim reminder of the dangers that lie ahead. At the same time, Tahomaru and his fleet land on the shore, their mission clear and ruthless: to kill Hyakkimaru at all costs. Tahomaru, accompanied by his loyal aides, leads the charge, giving orders to spare no one. Daigo arrows rain down, cutting through Itachi's men, reducing their numbers further. Amid the chaos, Dororo and Hyakkimaru encounter a mortally wounded Itachi, who clings to life just long enough to seize Dororo and flee from the onslaught. However, their escape is short-lived, as Hyakkimaru is intercepted by Tahomaru. The ensuing battle is brutal and personal, with Hyakkimaru barely holding his ground against the combined might of his brother and the two warriors. Blood and fury fill the air as Itachi drags Dororo away, narrowly avoiding Daigo arrows. High above the battlefield, Shiranui, broken and vengeful, sets his final plan into motion. With a grim smile, he detonates the booby-trap bombs he removed from the cave, creating a massive explosion that triggers a landslide. The resulting destruction is catastrophic, killing many of Tahomaru's men and wounding Yogo gravely. Tahomaru, reeling from the loss and Hogo's condition, orders a retreat, believing that Hyakkimaru has been buried alive beneath the rubble. In the aftermath, Dororo and a dying Itachi find themselves in a cavern unearthed by the explosion. Within its depths lies the long-sought treasure, glittering in the dim light. For a moment, Itachi's face softens, his greed replaced by a flicker of satisfaction as he gazes upon the riches. With his final breaths, he tells Dororo to make something of her life and dies, leaving her alone with the treasure. Hyakkimaru eventually finds Dororo, his body battered but alive. She informs him of the treasure, but decides to leave it hidden for now, unsure of its purpose. "It's not just mine," she says, her voice steady. "It's for all the people who suffered like my parents did. I'll decide what to do with it when the time is right." As they leave the cavern, the air feels heavier with the weight of their choices and losses. The treasure remains hidden, a symbol of both hope and responsibility, as Dororo and Hyakkimaru continue their journey, bound by a shared past and an uncertain future. Hyakkimaru and Dororo travel to a remote village in search of Munetsuna, a famed swordsmith who can repair the blades embedded in Hyakkimaru's prosthetic arms. Upon their arrival, they are met with disdainful remarks from the villagers, who claim Munetsuna's swords are subpar and his daughter, Okawa, is hideously unattractive. However, when they reach Munetsuna's home, they find these claims to be untrue. Munetsuna is a skilled craftsman, and Okawa is beautiful and kind. What puzzles them, however, is the house's eerie decor, every wall adorned with grotesque Hyakko masks. Munetsuna agrees to repair Hyakkimaru's swords, explaining that they must first be taken to a nearby temple for purification. Hyakkimaru and Dororo accompany him, but unknown to them, the temple is home to an Amano-jaku, a mischievous spirit capable of twisting words and intentions. The Amano-jaku casts a spell on Hyakkimaru, causing him to do and say the opposite of what he truly feels. Under the spell's influence, Hyakkimaru announces he will abandon his journey and marry Okawa, shocking Dororo. Dororo, feeling betrayed and hurt, considers throwing Hyakkimaru's swords into the river. However, she encounters Munetsuna at his foundry and vents her frustration, explaining how much Hyakkimaru means to her and how his actions have hurt her. Munetsuna listens intently, realizing something is amiss. The next morning, Dororo notices a strange phenomenon. Everyone in the village, including herself, has been speaking the opposite of their true thoughts. Munetsuna reveals that the Hyakko masks in his home hold the power to reveal the truth. Armed with one of these masks, Dororo rushes to the temple to confront Hyakkimaru and the Amano-jaku. At the temple, the Amano-jaku's spell drives Hyakkimaru into a rage, and he attacks Dororo. Using her quick reflexes and the Hyakko mask to shield herself, she tries to break through the spell's influence. Munetsuna arrives, wearing a mask himself, and strikes the Amano-jaku, incapacitating it. He explains that the spirit had been sealed beneath a statue in the temple for generations, but escaped when the statue was damaged. With Okawa's help, they restore the statue to its proper position, resealing the Amano-jaku. The village returns to normal, and the spell on Hyakkimaru is broken. Grateful but embarrassed, Hyakkimaru apologizes to Dororo for his earlier actions. Okawa also forgives him, realizing he was not himself. She later finds love with a young man from the village, and they marry. Munetsuna finishes repairing Hyakkimaru's swords, and Hyakkimaru refits them into his prosthetics. With their bond strengthened by the ordeal, Hyakkimaru and Dororo continue their journey, the grotesque masks of Munetsuna's home serving as a reminder of the importance of truth and understanding. Tahomaru and his aides begin to notice the worsening plight of Daigo's villages. Crops are failing, rivers are drying up, and sickness is spreading. Tahomaru deduces that the misfortune, which began at the borders and is now creeping inward, is tied to Hyakkimaru's survival. Clearly, the demons are displeased with Kagemitsu Daigo's failure to uphold his end of their deal. At the Daigo compound, Kagemitsu grimly observes the decline of his domain. With the destruction of the Goddess of Mercy statue, the pact with the demons has been effectively nullified, signaling the end of Daigo's prosperity. Faced with the prospect of his legacy crumbling, he resolves to put an end to Hyakkimaru once and for all. Meanwhile, Hyakkimaru and Dororo arrive in a region plagued by a fearsome demon. They meet a wandering man who claims he is hunting the demon responsible for killing his mother. Sympathetic to his plight, Dororo convinces Hyakkimaru to help him. Together, they stake out a rocky mountain pass where travelers have gone missing. Before long, a gigantic chimera-like demon with the face of a monkey, the body of a tiger, and a serpent for a tail emerges from the shadows, roaring with menace. As Hyakkimaru moves to confront the demon, Saburota unexpectedly turns against him, revealing his twisted unlimited joy in watching the monster devour its prey. Over the years, his grief and anger have given way to madness, and he now delights in the terror the demon spreads. Hyakkimaru and Saburota clash, their fight ending with both he and Dororo tumbling down a steep embankment. Dororo's arm becomes pinned beneath a boulder, and Hyakkimaru, despite breaking his left prosthetic arm, is unable to free her. To make matters worse, subterranean water begins to rise, threatening to drown her. At the critical moment, Biwahoshi appears, wielding his sword to free Dororo from the rocks, though the blade shatters in the process. Grateful but shaken, Dororo pleads with Hyakkimaru to abandon his fight with the monster, but he remains resolute, his obsession with regaining his body driving him forward. Hyakkimaru launches a fierce attack on the monster, managing to gravely wound it. In desperation, the demon turns on Saburota and devours him, absorbing his twisted soul into its body. Hyakkimaru presses on, ultimately delivering the killing blow and slicing the demon into pieces. However, to Dororo's horror, no part of Hyakkimaru's body is restored. Despite the bloodshed and the demon's defeat, the victory is hollow. Biwahoshi looks on, his expression heavy with sorrow. He observes that Hyakkimaru's aura, once tinged with the colors of a warrior's determination, now burns with a red heart, symbolizing growing hatred and bloodlust. He quietly muses that Hyakkimaru bears a cruel and heavy fate. Standing amidst the monster's remains, Hyakkimaru clenches his fists, his frustration boiling over. He realizes that the path to reclaiming his stolen body will not end with defeating random demons. It must conclude with confronting Kagemitsu Daigo himself. Hyakkimaru turns to Dororo, his voice cold and resolute, declaring that it is time to return to the Daigo compound and settle the score. Together, they begin their march toward the heart of Daigo's land, unaware of the battle that awaits them. Hyakkimaru and Dororo approach Daigo territory, the air thick with tension as they near their ultimate confrontation. Dororo grows increasingly disheartened by Hyakkimaru's single-minded obsession with reclaiming his body parts, lamenting how it consumes him and distances him from his humanity. As they pass through a village, they are recognized by a watchful villager who quickly informs Kagemitsu Daigo of their arrival. The situation within Daigo's lands has reached a breaking point. Disease spreads uncontrollably through the villages, forcing Kagemitsu's soldiers to burn entire settlements and slaughter their infected inhabitants. The war with the looming Asakura clan demands ever more resources, and able-bodied men are forcibly conscripted while horses are requisitioned, including a nursing mare named Midoro. Amid the growing despair, Kagemitsu resolves to eliminate Hyakkimaru once and for all, seeing him as the root of Daigo's misfortune. Tahomaru, despite his injuries and growing doubts about his father's methods, takes Mutsu and Hyogo to confront Tahomaru personally. As they travel, Mutsu and Hyogo reflect on their shared history, recalling the trauma of witnessing their parents' brutal deaths before being captured. Their lives were saved by Kagemitsu, who raised them alongside Tahomaru, shaping them into loyal retainers. The trio tracks Hyakkimaru and Dororo to a ravine littered with the bodies of soldiers who died in a recent battle. Without hesitation, they attack. Hyakkimaru fights back with brutal efficiency, severing Mutsu's right arm and Hyogo's left arm in quick succession. Tahomaru charges in, only to have his wounded right eye cut once again by Hyakkimaru's blade. Dororo watches in horror, unable to reconcile Hyakkimaru's growing savagery with the person she once knew. The battle is interrupted by a contingent of soldiers sent by Kagemitsu to protect Tahomaru. Their leader, a ruthless and pragmatic man, devises a desperate plan. He orders Midoro, the nursing mare now laden with explosives, to charge at Hyakkimaru. The explosion is devastating, killing the horse and blowing Hyakkimaru into the depths of the ravine. Dororo is seized by the villagers who had followed the soldiers, while Tahomaru collapses after being struck by a dart when he refuses to retreat with his retainers. As night falls, a sinister transformation occurs. The spirits of wrath and despair that linger in the area converge on the scattered remains of Midoro, reanimating the horse's body. Its eyes blaze with an unholy fire, and flames lick at its scorched skeletal frame. Now a demon of vengeance, the flaming horse gallops into the darkness, its shrill, unnatural cries echoing through the ravine. Tahomaru and his retainers return to Daigo's compound, bringing Dororo as a prisoner. Kagemitsu, now desperate to hold on to his crumbling domain, shifts his attention to the looming threat of the Asakura clan. He plans to make his stand at Banman, the symbolic gateway gateway to his lands. Meanwhile, Hyakkimaru, consumed by fury at Dororo's abduction, forms a bond with the demonic horse Midoro. The fiery, vengeful creature is drawn to his rage, becoming a destructive force as the two tear through Daigo's soldiers, leaving chaos in their wake. Back at the Daigo compound, Tahomaru visits Mutsu, who is recovering from the loss of her arm and hiding a worsening illness. Despite her condition, she refuses to see him, unwilling to risk infecting him. Tahomaru is left to grapple with his inability to protect his closest allies as the weight of his father's decisions bears down on him. Meanwhile, Nui no Kata, filled with regret and gratitude for Dororo's companionship with Hyakkimaru, secretly frees Dororo from her captivity. They attempt to flee by boat, but the strong current capsizes their vessel. Both are saved by Daigo refugees who are fleeing the chaos and destruction that have overtaken the land. Among them is the Biwa Hoshi, who tends to Nui no Kata and Dororo. Stricken by the suffering around her, Nui no Kata decides to stay with the refugees, offering her aid to the sick and wounded. Elsewhere, Mutsu, now gravely ill, leaves the Daigo compound, determined to offer her life to the 12th and final demon in a desperate bid to protect the land and its people. Tahomaru and Hyogo, realizing her intentions, pursue her despite their injuries. They arrive at the demon's temple just as Mutsu offers herself to the demon. To their shock, the demon rejects her sacrifice. Despite her noble intentions, it deems her insufficient. Later, when Hyakkimaru, riding the demonic Midoro, nears their location, Tahomaru, Mutsu, and Hyogo intercept him, but they are transformed. Their wounds are gone, and they possess new strength. Mutsu and Hyogo each wield one of Hyakkimaru's real arms, while Tahomaru has been granted both of Hyakkimaru's eyes. The demon has claimed these body parts, empowering them to face Hyakkimaru in its name. The sight of his stolen limbs and the betrayal by his own family ignites an even greater fury in Hyakkimaru. The battle that looms ahead will determine not only the fate of his body, but the future of Daigo's land and its people, as brother faces brother in a clash of wills, ideals, and blood. The Daigo villagers brace for the looming war, preparing themselves for the clash with the Asakura army, while fear and desperation weigh heavily on them. Midoro's foal, frightened by the tension and chaos, flees into the wilderness. Meanwhile, Hyakkimaru faces Tahomaru, Mutsu, and Hyogo in a vicious battle to reclaim his stolen body parts. As Hyakkimaru strikes with relentless determination, Nui no Kata and Dororo arrive at the battlefield but are held back by the Biwa Hoshi, who warn them that interfering may lead to further suffering. Midoro, driven by her bond with Hyakkimaru, attacks Mutsu and Hyogo ferociously, her fiery rage a match for their demon-enhanced strength. However, Midoro is momentarily distracted when her lost foal appears on the battlefield, calling for her. In that moment of vulnerability, she is grievously wounded. Enraged, Midoro summons the last of her strength, tearing off Hyogo's head and crushing Mutsu under her weight. Despite their deaths, the demon's power continues to animate Mutsu and Hyogo's bodies. Their stolen arms lash out and fatally wound Midoro. With her dying breath, Midoro lets out a mournful cry. As Mutsu and Hyogo finally fall lifeless, Hyakkimaru's arms are returned to him. He wastes no time, gripping the sword blades from his former prosthetics in his bare hands to continue the brutal fight with Tahomaru. Their battle rages with unmatched intensity, but when Nui no Kata and Dororo approach, their presence briefly shakes Hyakkimaru's focus. Overwhelmed by a torrent of conflicting emotions, rage, sorrow, and longing, Hyakkimaru flees into the night, with Tahomaru, driven by both duty and pride, chasing after him. Meanwhile, the villagers, Biwa Hoshi, Nui no Kata, and Dororo gather and reflect on the chaos surrounding them. They debate the worth of Hyakkimaru's pursuit of his body compared to the suffering it has caused, as well as Kagemitsu Daigo's sacrifices in the name of his land's prosperity. Ultimately, they agree on one principle: only what is earned and held with one's own hands can have lasting value. At the border, Kagemitsu Daigo leads his army against the advancing Asakura forces, determined to stand by the consequences of his past decisions. As war engulfs the land, Hyakkimaru pursues Tahomaru back to Daigo Castle. There, the brothers resume their violent struggle. Their clash grows increasingly desperate, each fueled by opposing yet deeply personal convictions. In the chaos, they knock over a candle stand, and the castle is quickly engulfed in flames. The rising smoke catches the attention of Dororo and Nui no Kata, who are overcome with concern for Hyakkimaru and Tahomaru. Despite the Biwa Hoshi's warnings, they rush toward the burning castle, driven by hope that they can save the two brothers before it's too late. As the flames rise higher, the fates of Hyakkimaru, Tahomaru, and the Daigo domain teeter on the edge of destruction. Tohomaru and Hyakkimaru continue their ferocious battle amidst the burning ruins of Daigo Castle. Their clashing swords and fiery determination symbolize their deeply ingrained beliefs. Tohomaru's conviction that the domain is his to protect, and Hyakkimaru's rightful claim to the life stolen from him. The inferno around them mirrors the chaos and destruction caused by the Daigo family's choices. While the battle rages above, Nui no Kata courageously slips away from the Biwa Hoshi and Dororo, entering the castle through a secret tunnel. There, she encounters Jukai, the man who gave Hyakkimaru his first chance at life. Together, they navigate the crumbling corridors, hoping to reach the two brothers before it's too late. In the throne room, Hyakkimaru finally overpowers Tohomaru, disarming him and standing victorious. However, he chooses not to deliver a killing blow, stepping back as Tohomaru collapses. The demon holding Hyakkimaru's eyes seizes the moment, attempting to possess Tohomaru entirely. In a final act of redemption, Tohomaru tears out the demon-infused eyes and offers them to Hyakkimaru. The eyes return to their rightful owner, and for the first time, Hyakkimaru is whole. Hyakkimaru then confronts and slays the demon, severing the last tie to the curse that had bound his life to the suffering. As the fight ends, Jukai presents him with a newly carved Goddess of Mercy statue, a symbol of healing and forgiveness. Reunited with Dororo, Hyakkimaru embraces his companion as the castle burns to the ground behind them. In her final moments, Nui no Kata finds Tohomaru amidst the wreckage, cradling him in her arms. As the castle collapses, Tohomaru dies, with his mother beside him, her tears a testament to the tragedy of her family's fate. Meanwhile, far from the burning castle, the final demon statue in the Hall of Hell crumbles, signaling the end of Kagemitsu Daigo's unholy pact. On the battlefield, Kagemitsu leads his men against the advancing Asakura forces, but his army is decimated, leaving him wounded and isolated. Later, Dororo proposes to use the treasure hidden at Cape Hakatsu to aid the refugees of Daigo's ruined domain, embodying her selflessness and hope for a better future. Hyakkimaru, however, travels to the Hall of Hell to confront his father. There, he finds Kagemitsu, defiant even in his broken state. Despite his father's misdeeds, Hyakkimaru chooses not to kill him, leaving behind the Goddess of Mercy statue as a silent message of forgiveness and a reminder of what could have been. Kagemitsu, left to reflect on his choices, realizes that had he not made his pact with the demons, Hyakkimaru might have been the one to save their land. Hyakkimaru departs alone, knowing his journey is not yet complete. Although he and Dororo part ways for now, there is an unspoken understanding that their paths will cross again. Years later, a grown-up Dororo, now a confident young woman, runs through a peaceful field. She spots Hyakkimaru in the distance, and he turns to see her with a warm smile, signaling their reunion. The journey of pain, loss, and redemption has brought them full circle, with hope for the future shining brightly in their eyes.